Digify Africa's Women in Conversation series. My name is Hakaza Mohare, the COO of Digify Africa, and I'm really glad to be your host for this afternoon. South Africa is part of a global campaign known as Generation Equality, which aims to eradicate gender inequality by the year 2030. Today, I am joined by two of Digify Africa's leading women to have a conversation around what it means for us to be building an equitable future and legacy for young women within the digital economy. Hello, Kineilwe, how are you?
Hi, how are you doing? I'm fantastic.
I'm well, thank you. Please, could you introduce yourself to those who are joining in today's conversation?
Of course, I am Ginelo Malotle. I'm the Senior Project Manager here at Digify Africa. I take care of our foundation side of the business.
And then we take a young trip over to Nigeria to say hello to Florence. Please, could you introduce yourself to our viewers?
Hi, my name is Florence Olumodimo. I lead the program in Nigeria, everything Digify in Nigeria. That's me.
Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon, ladies. So today's conversation, we have got questions that we're going to be asking each other. So I'm going to go first and throw out the first question about power. Now, my question is, and I'll start with you, Kinelo, and move over to Florence. How did you navigate the power structures when you were still very early on in your career versus later in your career where you are now in more formal positions of leadership?
I think when you kind of start out, because you're still like feeling yourself and you're still trying to understand where it is that you fit in. When I actually started working, I just had the mentality that I'm here to learn. You know, like I was fresh from varsity. I was, Jimmy comes to Joburg with a bag and a dream. So the very first job that I got, the first thing I did was just like absorbed. In that particular company, there wasn't like a lot of like structure, like no like major hierarchy. So it was just like you're learning from the CEO, you're learning from the operations manager, you're learning from everyone, and you're just formulating yourself into what you actually want to be. Versus now, I think working at Digify Africa actually allows me to, again, continue to work with the different structures. At no point have I felt that, okay, because I'm a manager, I'm going to like pull weight on people. I think it's also really important that when you're doing leadership things, it needs to be a conversation between you and the people that work under you, so that because you all have a common goal of some sort. So I would kind of just say, yeah, when I first started off, definitely a lot more scared, a lot more anxiety, but I walked in saying, I'm here to learn. And I kind of kept that same attitude, now that I'm senior project manager, I'm still here to learn. Like, I do not know everything.
I love it. Here to learn is definitely the way to go. Now, Florence, I'm going to throw that same question over to you. How did you find it, navigating those power structures when you were first starting out your career versus now, where you have stepped up into a more formal leadership role?
Yeah, so for me, in my earlier career, I was eager to do things, but I actually waited for opportunities because I didn't want to be too forward. I didn't want to, do what was, I'm one that believes in doing above and beyond. But at the same time, I also did not want, like, maybe my bosses to feel that, why am I doing too much? But in my career now, I would just say like maybe a decade backwards up to now, I create opportunities. So if a door isn't open, I then create a new door, and create opportunities. And I also try to not worry about what maybe if my other colleague isn't doing as much. I just do my best and do above and beyond always. And I also try to make sure that when I see the people working with me that are maybe trying to underplay themselves, like I did in my earlier career, I encourage them, look, it doesn't matter, like do your best now. So that's how I navigate it. Kakaz, I have a question for you. What strategies can work well to promote inclusion in the workplace?
Ooh, inclusion in the workplace. Look, I think for me, and just seeing how we've been able to do it as Digify Africa has really just been about conversation, and really making sure that everyone in the room feels like they have a voice, and to be able to voice out their opinion. And then there'll also be some people who maybe don't voice out their opinion in a public setting, I think for me it's been really important to go back to them, just to be like, hey, Florence, I was just wondering, we didn't get to hear your opinion on this, so how do you find different settings to allow different people to be able to voice themselves? But I think you really just must be really mindful about who's not speaking, who is speaking, and how to create opportunities or spaces where those who aren't speaking in the public setting maybe feel comfortable enough to do that. And then we also really bring in experts, whether they're coming to speak to the management team or to the whole company. I think you never stop learning, as Kinelo had said earlier, so really opening up the company to experts to come through, to come and give sessions and come and speak about inclusion, and I think lastly for me it's about reading, reading what other companies are doing when it comes to inclusion, what policies can we look at, and to really not think of things as like a cookie cutter, like this is how things have to be, but to know that we can design our company to be what we want it to be.
Thank you very much for that.
Tagaza, I do have a question that's going to be a bit of a throwback. When you joined the company, which was about 6-7 years ago, and you were bright-eyed walking into Digify Africa as a Digify project manager, did you, in the slightest way, ever think that you would get to this position? And can you just walk us through that journey?
So no, because there wasn't COO, there wasn't even a position that existed.
No way.
But because I like things, I always, when I came in, there was the leadership team, and I always remember they would go and have like leadership meetings in a room, like at the front of the office, and I used to have my desk nicely at the back there. And I was just like, because I like things, I want to know what's happening in that room. I want to be in that room. But I don't think that I actually really thought like there would be a day where I am second in command to Gavin, like that just wasn't part of my thinking, But I think for me what happened was, so if you know the history of Digify Africa, you know that it has been a turbulent one at times, But I think what that time of turbulence really offered for me was a step to like an opportunity to step into the gap, to fill the gap, to figure out what the company needs. We were stretched financially, and then is really when you need like team players, to come through and say, hey, it's not my job, or hey, I don't even know what that's about, but I'm gonna learn, I'm gonna push myself to find out what it's about and be able to do that for the survival of the company. And I think that's really, when I think back at my journey, how I've moved from project manager to COO was really that, like seeing what the gaps are, really just positioning myself to then say, hey, let me give it a shot. And I really must say, like, the company Digify Africa is so amazing in how it believes in young people, that is part of our manifesto, but I saw it with myself, where stepping up into biz dev, I knew nothing about business development, but I was just like, with enough coaching, with enough training, with enough Google, I'm pretty sure we can figure this out,
YouTube University is here for all of us.
Exactly. And I think for me, which is again going back to what you were saying about like you never stop learning, for me it was just about that hunger to do more, and I think really believing in the work that we do, not wanting to see the company crumble was really what motivated me to keep going. So a part of me kind of did maybe imagine that I'd get to this point, but I won't lie to you, I'm kind of surprised sometimes where I'm just like, COO, okay, cool.
I think what I'm hearing is exactly what Florence actually just mentioned, to say that there wasn't a door, but you were like, I'm gonna create one. I'm like, I'm gonna hammer myself here, because that's what it was. I think that's such an important thing with women, where we just, where there could be an opportunity, where you actually see the opportunity, you actually like gotta create it. In a way, somehow.
But I think a thing that happens quite often, and that's going to lead me quite nicely into my next question that I want to actually throw to both you and Florence, Imposter syndrome. because you're pushing through, because you're doing things, that you maybe haven't had it in your plan and have like prepared to do, that imposter syndrome comes and it kicks in and you're just like, what am I doing? Should I even be doing this? So I'm going to ask Florence first and I'm going to come through to you, Kinelwe. Have you experienced imposter syndrome before? And how have you dealt with it, if so?
All right. So imposter syndrome is characterized by a set of beliefs and thoughts that basically stop you from even acknowledging your achievements, praises, and success that come your way, right? It makes you feel like you're not good enough and that, hey, people will find out that I'm a fraud. But truly, you are good at what you do. The praise that they're giving you, you actually deserve it. And one way or the other, each of us have felt it at one point in our careers or the other, right? So how to navigate it and how I navigated it, especially in earlier career, was making sure that I acknowledge the feeling. So you have to know that it's a feeling. You're gonna get it sometimes. It's like when you get butterflies in your tummy. And then you have to be ready to reframe your thoughts to positive thoughts. Give yourself positive affirmations. I can do this. I've got this. If nobody's giving you a pat on the back, give yourself a pat on the back. I also feel that as individuals, especially as women, sometimes we underplay our strengths and the things we can do, right? I even say go as far as making yourself like a brag book, like a portfolio for yourself, where all your achievements, your badges, and all that are there. It reminds you that, yes, you are good enough. You have all those things to verify how good you are, right? And know that the superpowers you have, those strengths that make you stand out, that your colleagues are seeing, you are not seeing, that those superpowers, you just need to embrace it, and as you're giving yourself the pat in the back, that imposter syndrome definitely, fades away. So that's my encouragement to everyone.
Florence, I am definitely taking that portfolio idea. I'm going to go home today and put myself a young portfolio of achievements. I love it. Kinelwe, have you ever felt like you're a fraud, and how do you how do you talk yourself out of that? How do you say maybe not so much?
I love that portfolio. I'm sorry, I'm Florence,
a brag book. Yeah.
So that is actually very true. That's something I definitely should do. Currently, I'm kind of just winging it, but one thing for me, it's my support structure, right? So, like Florence is saying, is that it's that feeling of but I'm am I sure? I'm not really good enough. Am I qualified enough to do the things that I'm doing, making the decisions that I'm making? And because we work at Digify, our decisions literally have impact on people's lives. All the participants that go through our program, all our beneficiaries of our programs, what we decide to do is literally a direct impact. So sometimes the gravity of that, can just kind of weigh me down to be like, am I really qualified enough to make this sort of decision? In terms of support structure, both at home and at work, right? So I've been incredibly fortunate enough to have built a really strong friendship group. My mother and I are really, really close. So when I am feeling that thing come over and creep over, I can actually voice it out to the people that are in my life and be like, yo, I'm feeling this type of way. And sometimes that outside validation actually helps you realize, something that you hadn't seen. The other place that I do get it from being a manager is actually my team. My team is so amazing. On a random day, they will drop me a message and say, you're doing great, and then you're like, really? And then you cry because I didn't think I was doing fabulous, but thank you for letting me know. And then obviously you, as my manager, the fact that I can come to our meetings and be like, I can't feel the ground. And then you're like, it's okay. The ground is very far, but you can actually swing through it. So I think on top of having that portfolio, that physical portfolio, because I'd actually like to have a physical copy written out. building yourself a really good support structure that will also remind you that yes, you are actually good. I would assume, be good to work with. Yeah. So for me, support structure, 100%.
100. Yep.
When I first started off, definitely a lot more scared, a lot more anxiety, but I walked in saying I'm here to learn. And I kind of kept that same attitude, you know, now that I'm senior project manager, I'm still here to learn. Like, I do not know everything.
I love it. Here to learn is definitely the way to go.